Good afternoon. It's Jay Holland in for Senator Phil Williams here on Rightside Radio. Back in the saddle. Same bat time, same bat channel. Here we are, and another 3 hours of nonstop phone calls and content that is compelling, informative, and just downright plain good. If it's on this program, it's good. So if you'd like to call in, we'd like to hear from you as we have the fearless Boomer to answer your calls. Boomer, of course, a veteran now, but I knew him when he was just a little tyke. So you can give us a call at any time here on Rightside Radio. It's Boomer. I'm really kind of drawing a blank on the phone number here. Where is it?
We got it. It is 833-687-4448. So 833-68-RIGHT.
RIGHT. Thank you, Boomer.
Yes, sir.
And, also the text line is the same number. So if you want to text us and not go on the radio, that's cool. Just let us know what's on your mind, and we will let you expound on it, whatever's on your mind. There are several interesting subjects out there that we need to cover. Of course, the breaking news earlier today was that the Georgia prosecutors are gearing up. Yep, you heard right. They want Trump. They want him. This is really getting to be overkill. It's really kind of scary, because it seems that the Justice Department is kind of for hire here. So unnamed sources, of course, isn't that the way it always is? Unnamed sources have linked to CNN that Georgia prosecutors allegedly have gotten their leftist paws on so-called text and emails that implicate members of former President Donald Trump's legal team. So unnamed sources, as it were, is all that we get as far as where this is coming from. But evidently the purpose is to tie Trump's legal team members to the January 2021 voting system breach in Coffee County, Georgia, according to CNN. This story dated August 14th from Teresa Monroe Hamilton on a trusted source, as it were. So that is just the latest of efforts to torpedo Donald Trump. So this is the fifth, count them, 5 indictments. It sounds like overkill to me, but the old adage, throw enough stuff on the wall, some of it will eventually stick, right? So it's really, Trump, I gotta say, has a pretty stellar record of shucking this kind of stuff. I mean, he went through not one, but two impeachments, and just sailed through all this stuff with the so-called dossier, which was just complete made-up stuff. And they tried to make it stick for 2 or 3 years. It was just, Hillary Clinton right in the middle of it. No consequences for any of it. But yet they drug us through the muck and the stupid, ridiculous stuff about Trump and Moscow and all this. I mean, it was really bad for the country, as Mitch McConnell would say. So it really hurt and made a lot of voters and other citizens just totally turned off to the political process. So the politicians are really hurting themselves with all this stuff, but they just can't seem to help it when it comes to Donald Trump. And really and truly, I would like to know what they see is so dangerous about Donald Trump. I know he doesn't play their game, and I know that he is his own guy. You know, he don't need their money. You know, and if you ask me, Donald Trump more than likely just didn't fire enough when he got in there the first time. So that is to say that for a guy who made his career over saying, "You're fired," you know, when he got into the White House, he didn't do that often enough. It took him a year or so to fire Comey. So, you know, and then all those Obama hacks that were still there, that are probably still there. So it really, Donald Trump did it to himself in many ways. And I don't think it was because he was trying to be a nice guy. I just think he was trying to learn the territory. You know, here's a guy who spent his entire career in the business field. Then he walks in to the White House, the most politically polarized, energized, scrutinized place on the planet. So, yeah, he had a little learning curve. I would say it was a big learning curve. So, but, you know, Donald Trump, if you ask me, let a lot of this stuff happen. So if you want to give him 4 more years, you know, that's your business. But I think judging from his performance, with even all of these political hacks trying to drag him down, he still had the best economy ever. He still negotiated the best trade deals ever. He still, you know, bolstered up our military, the best ever. He, you know, he had Putin and China straightened up in line. He jerked about over $1 trillion from NATO, from countries that weren't paying their dues. He said, look, you pay your dues or you're out. They didn't like it, but they did. So what's wrong with that? America has been paying the dang bill for 20, 30 years. Nobody stood up to him but Trump. So I don't see the problem politically. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't see the problem with Trump's performance. Politically, yeah, it was a big problem. So many people in the swamp, quote, quote, got their toenails clipped, got their fingernails pulled, got a lot of blowback from Trump because Trump didn't play their game. So that's why they're going after him. That's why they'll do anything to keep that from happening again. Because if he gets back in there, this time he's going to know where the bones are buried, so to speak. So, yeah, that's why they're fighting so hard. That's why they're marshaling all of their resources from various and sundry places. And Trump keeps saying, look, this case in Georgia, if they really wanted to pursue this earnestly, they would have done it 2.5 years ago. But no, they wait until it's an election cycle. So, yeah, it's voter interference. Of course it is. It's an election that they can't afford to lose. They cannot. This is why they're dragging all this stuff out. This is why they're coming up with any little thing that they possibly can. Trump has been exonerated on most all of this garbage in the past. So I don't have any reason to believe that he will not be exonerated this time. Or let me say these 5 times.
Well, you know, it's a good point that you just made. And we heard something, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, that Trump said, I'm just one more indictment away from winning this election.
That was in Montgomery.
Yeah.
Right here in Alabama. That's right. Yeah, I just need one more indictment.
Just one more.
He got it. He got it today. So, look, every time, seriously, I'm drop dead serious. Every time he's been indicted, his numbers have gone up.
Well, they're trying so hard to figure out a way to get rid of Trump. But then again, they're putting Trump in front of every news outlet, and so he's getting all that free publicity, even though it may be negative. But sometimes they say that the negative publicity is still publicity.
Well,
right,
Boomer, it's real simple. People see through this. They do.
Yeah,
I think they really have gotten to the point where the Democrats have overplayed their hand so much that folks are getting real cynical about it. I don't think that Donald Trump has much to worry about, really, because I think he's right. One more indictment, and he's got this thing. So, it's really kind of funny because the harder they try, the more powerful he becomes. So, and they're bringing it on themselves now. So, look, Trump's got very smart lawyers. We know that from impeachment 1, impeachment 2. We know that from the Mueller report. We know that from the fake, phony, made-up dossier. We know, his lawyers have been working overtime for a long time now. But let me tell you, they must be really good. So, I really am confident that everything they try is just going to blow up in their face. You know why? Because they're on the wrong side. They're not trying to build up this country. They're not trying to make this country better. They're not trying to do anything except one thing, and that's tear down one of the best presidents that's ever been. Now, you may not like Trump. A lot of people don't like him, but they support him. You know why? Because he did what he said he was going to do. Trump is a little arrogant. Trump is kind of like a bull in a china shop. Trump is somebody you don't want to have mad at you, And Trump is a fighter. Trump is somebody that if you go at him, he's going to come back at you and harder than you did. Trump is somebody that is formidable. They've never really been up against somebody like that. Can you imagine George W. Bush doing this stuff? Can you imagine Bill Clinton? Now, Bill Clinton was a good old boy. And Clinton was the kind of guy you'd like to play a round of golf with, and chug down a few suds. And, I remember seeing a clip of him hitting a drive. And he hit it, and of course it sliced or something. But he said, "Stay up there, mama." He was really funny. It was great. And I thought right then, I said, Bill Clinton would be a good guy to play around a golf with. But it's really a matter of looking at it seriously. Do you think that George H.W. Bush would pull some of this stuff that Trump has done? No way. Not even the great one, Ronald Reagan. Reagan had class. Trump don't have class. Trump's going to come after you. So now Trump is classy in many ways, but politically, he don't really know enough politics to be classy. These people that are coming after him have made a career of politics. They know the ins and outs. They know the do's and don'ts. They know all of the stuff that you, quote, have to do, unquote. Trump don't do that. Trump don't play their game. Trump is trouble for those that profess to be career politicians. So it's really a matter of looking at it honestly and with a little tinge of political background, which I have. And that's where I think Trump really makes brownie points with, the people of the country, because he don't do what the politicians expect him to do. That's why they're fighting him so hard. That's why they hate the idea that he might get 4 more years. So don't lose heart. Don't lose faith. It'll all turn out right in the end. You're listening to Jay Holland, guest hosting for Phil Williams. The senator will be back tomorrow. So keep it right here to Rightside Radio. Rightside Radio. I'm Jay Holland sitting in for the venerable Phil Williams, who is out today, but will be back tomorrow. So that's good news. I've always really liked Phil. He did a lot for us. He's a lawyer. He's a smart guy. He was our chairman of the Etowah County Republican Party for a couple of terms. Phil and I had a really great relationship, and I had him on my program at the Big Wax and WGAD here in town for many times. So Phil and I really had a good relationship, and so when he needs to be off on occasion, I think last time I filled in was June, something like that. So he called me up, and I was a little apprehensive at first because it's been a while since I've been on doing a live. I do recordings all the time, but that's different. It's being live and knowing that everything you mention on this microphone is going to be out in the world at the speed of light, is pretty intimidating. So, this is 4 stations. So it's WVNN, AM and FM in Huntsville. And then it is Crawford Broadcasting, WXJC 101.1 FM and WYDE 850 AM. That's a lot of coverage.
A lot of coverage.
That's, WYDE is 50 kilowatts, 50,000 watts. 101.1 is 100,000. 92.5 FM is a Class C. I think that's 6,000. And 770 is 5,000. So those are 4 hefty signals there. Just to give you an idea, every morning when I was on the Big Wax here in Gadsden, it's 5,000 watts. But its towers are like on the Coosa River. So if you know anything about radio, half of a broadcast tower in AM is what you see in the air. The other half is below in the ground. Every 5 degrees around that tower, there's a copper wire in the ground that goes out from the tower as high as the tower is. So that's the secondary ground plane, as it's called. So, Dad, of course, Tower 2 at the Big Wax, which is the one on the Coosa River, Tower 1 is the one closer to the station. Tower 3 is the one in the middle, which is weird, but that's the way they did it. So anyway, long story short, my dad listened to me in Dalton, Georgia, every morning when I was on the Big Wax. That's roughly 90 air miles. So big signals. So 5,000 watts on 770 is huge, let me tell you, in Huntsville. So appreciate it. All right, we're going to take a break at the bottom of the hour. When we come back, we'll have more, including a little retort here from Jamie Raskin trying to defend Joe Biden for lying about his business relationship with his son. Interesting stuff here. That's what they're trying to cover up. Right Side Radio, this is Jay Holland. Rightside Radio. Jay Holland here sitting in for Senator Phil Williams, who will be back tomorrow. I'll be back. So, attaboy, Phil, we appreciate you letting us sit in for you. It's always a pleasure to be on the radio. It's been a career doing it, and sort of kind of retired from the live side. Still do a lot of recording, but anyway, if you'd like to talk with us about any number of things, 833-687-4448. That's 833-687-4448. That's a phone call, or you can use that number to text us a message. Whatever you want to say, whatever explicative we can't guarantee we'll play or we'll say, but maybe Boomer will. I don't know. But nevertheless, it's Rightside Radio, and we're here for you. So give us a call, and we'll put you on the radio. All right. You know, I mentioned before the break that Jamie Raskin, I call him Jamie Rascally. He's, he's had cancer, and I kind of feel a little sorry for him, but he is a rabid, radical, lefty Democrat. You know, he's probably a pretty nice guy, probably like Bill Clinton, somebody you'd like to hang out with, drink a beer with or something. But, and talk a few political stories. But Raskin is a shill for the Democrats. I mean, big time shill. So this guy, and this is from Business and Politics, BPR. Jonathan Karl confronts Raskin on Biden lying about Hunter not getting money from China. So this is, let me tell you, here lately the Democrats are like kitties in a litter box. They are constantly scratching, constantly covering up the crap that all of these would-be, quote, political servants, unquote, have taken advantage of and have totally royally screwed up. They're like kitties in a litter box. And, but they can't scratch enough to cover it all up. And it's beginning to leak out on them. We'll get more to that. But first we got a phone call. So let's go to David in Huntsville on the 2024 election. David, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Jay, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. I'm actually going to call today, and I heard you talking about Trump and the 2024 election.
Yeah.
The one thing I could say on the indictments and his indictments is that they're all in mostly left-wing areas, so we won't have a normal type jury deal. But my big question with the 2024 election is, who is our best candidate for 2024? It's not 2016. It's not 2020. It's 2024.
Right.
And I personally feel that Biden is not going to be their nominee. They're going to come in with somebody, and I think Republicans are kind of really messing up if they're not prepared for another candidate to be the actual nominee of the Democrat Party. And I don't believe, based on the electorate that votes nowadays across this nation, they vote based on who they like and who offers them things. And it's the American Idol type election. So I feel like...
I never heard it put like that, American Idol election.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
The electorate has changed so much. Although we're a good size, right side people, but we're not typical of the election, across the country. And I just feel like, DeSantis is my favorite.
Yeah.
I for sure feel that Trump is much more of a negative in the general campaign.
Maybe so.
Obviously, the only thing that he's really got going for him is the fact that he's been a president before, and we like him and or his policies. But there are so many people across this nation that just want him to go away.
Right.
And I don't believe for a moment that he is our best hope in any way for 2024. He's sometimes his worst enemy.
Well, David, I think that's a good analysis. Certainly, Trump has made a lot of enemies. He stepped on a lot of toes. And I said it. It's true. He's a bull in a china shop. He is a guy that you don't mess with. I mean, he's going to be coming back for you. He's not a polished politician at all. He really. He acts like he doesn't really know much about that at all. He just says, "Look, if you're coming after me, I'm coming after you only harder than you will." So, and he's got the money to do it. So that's where all these other candidates. I mean, I know that Ron DeSantis has raised a lot of money, but he's also spent a lot of money, and he's firing staff now. So DeSantis,
we have not had one debate.
That's true.
We are not anywhere. I call it the Trump mafia. As much as I like Trump's policies and the good things that he did and everything, I call it the Trump mafia, just trying to shut everybody down, just like the Democrats do with global warming, trying to push it down everybody's throats and
right.
And just mess with them. He's trying to use his power, and he doesn't like to lose, and he's trying to use his power and all this kind of stuff to become the nominee. But I think we will be in worse shape come the general election if Donald Trump actually makes it to the gets the nomination. I don't believe he will, but at any rate, thank you for your time, Jay.
Hey, thank you, David, for calling in WVNN, AM and FM in Huntsville. Yeah, there's a lot of baggage out there for Trump. I mean, remember all the urban moms, the soccer moms, and all the the moms. They never really helped him out in the 2020 election, and because Trump used Twitter to be mean. They thought mean tweets. Remember all that mean tweets. I mean, that's a pretty shallow reason not to like a guy, but because he's standing up for himself and his policies and his administration, that's really pretty shallow. But, that's what we have out there for an electorate. It's like you said, it's a, what do you call it, American Idol electorate. So, yeah, it's based on a lot of things other than real world politics. It's based on emotions and feelings and everything other than what it should be based on. So it's really a kind of an up for grabs kind of thing. But, the pollsters were wrong in 2020. They thought it was going to be a lot closer. Of course, Trump has been alleging fraud and bum election based on COVID and some other problems with mail-in ballots and stuff. Some of that stuff is beginning to start surfacing and leaking out now, way after the fact. Which kind of bolsters up Trump's whining about it, which is really what he's been doing. And that's turned off a lot of people. But it's the same setup for 2020 in the Republican primary. You got a bunch of Republicans, 16 or 18 now, is it? Something like that. And Donald Trump, and he's leading by a lot. David notwithstanding, because David made some great points. But the problem here is the Republicans, at best, on a good day, are very wishy-washy. They're, I'll give this to the Democrats. They stay together. They fight together. They live together. They die together. They'll go down with the ship together. Not the Republicans. They're a bunch of, it's like herding cats. It's almost impossible. Republicans are independent thinkers. They're generally successful people. They have their own ideas about their own ways of doing things and their own, and many times their own support systems. Not the Democrats. everybody in the Democrat Party, just about, except for the elitists, they are dependent on the other Democrats, So it's not real hard to figure out that the Republicans are going to be fractured. And, just look at some of these votes. McConnell going along with all these idiotic spending bills. It was been like three $1.7 trillion spending bills, which set off all this inflation. I'm no real rocket scientist when it comes to economics, but I do have a degree. And when you have inflation, you have too much money in the marketplace chasing too few goods. That's what Biden has done. He's put $1.7 trillion into the economy 3 separate times. One was for infrastructure. One was, I can't remember all of them, but it's caused inflation. It's caused a lot of pain and suffering and agony. It's caused gas to go up. It's over $4 a gallon. Most places now here in Alabama, it's pushing $4. It's going to get worse. You know why? Because Biden has artificially been keeping the price down using our strategic petroleum reserve. The media ain't going to talk about it, but that's exactly what's been happening. So now we're running out of petroleum in the strategic petroleum reserve, and which is a military national security issue, but nobody is criticizing Biden for that. And guess what? Prices are going up. That's another thing Trump did. He had us energy independent. Now, you can scoff and, be like David, and squirm and, I don't know, all you want. But Trump had the energy cost down to like, what, $1.80 a gallon when he was, last in office. So, you can criticize Trump for not being a player in the politics game all you want. But the truth is the guy did what he said he was going to do. And how often, especially in politics, do you find that rare quality? I mean, you can count the number of times probably on both hands, both feet, and somebody else's hands and feet that Biden has lied to us. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, here's a guy convicted of plagiarism. He admitted it. Plagiarized some guy over in Britain, and during the 1987 campaign for president. Had to finally drop out. Imagine that. The media made him drop out because they were reporting the facts. Now they just make stuff up and let him get away with selling out our petroleum reserve to China and anybody who wants to buy and keeping the price artificially low. Nobody's reporting that, but that's what's happening because that's what keeps driving the price of gasoline up. Why is it that, you go to the grocery store and it's $25-$30 more than it was and you bought the same stuff? Because Biden passed 3 bills, $1.7 trillion each, flooded the economy with money, and everybody else, too much money chasing too few goods. Classic inflation. Not making this stuff up. You couldn't make it up if you tried because it's crazy. But that's what Biden has done. Nobody's holding him accountable. Nobody's even talking about it. Oh, they report on it. Oh, the inflation is bad, But, Biden spent a year saying it was transitory. Remember all that? Spent a year. Oh, it's just transitory. Don't worry about it. Right. This is the kind of talking between your teeth or lying between your teeth or whatever you want to call it that really turns people off to politics. It's sad, but this is what they do. It takes guys like me that are not afraid to point it out, to really say what the problem is rather than, just going along just to get along. So it's not hard to figure out. The truth is, what's hard is doing what the media and the Democrats are trying to do right now. Scratch around in a kitty litter box and cover up your crap. That's all they're doing. And it's not working for them. This is Rightside Radio. I'm Jay Holland sitting in for Phil Williams. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll take a quick break. We'll come right back with your phone calls and more here on Rightside Radio. Rightside Radio. This is Jay Holland sitting in for Phil Williams. And golly, it's just a few minutes till the top of the hour. Hard to believe. Time flies when you're having fun. But we will take some phone calls. Let's go to the phone right fast for Gary in Decatur. Gary, what's up, buddy?
Hey, I was just calling to comment on the previous caller about everybody's getting tired of Trump syndrome and
Right.
They just want somebody else. But I mean, maybe that wasn't a good term to describe whining about election fraud. If you didn't watch 2,000 Mules and you didn't know what happened in Pennsylvania, and
Right.
now what's going on in Michigan, there was definitely fraud going on, and that's against the law.
Right. Nobody's prosecuting it, though.
Well, and nobody will as long as there's a Democrat in charge, as you identified. Republicans aren't they don't have the guts to do anything.
Right. That's true.
And that was my very point. Who in this primary would stand up to the scrutiny that Trump has?
Exactly. Well, it's really worth thinking in those terms because, Gary, nobody really of any consequence in large enough numbers thinks like that, unfortunately, because, well, let me rethink that, because right now Trump's polling numbers are pretty doggone good. So maybe there are a lot of people thinking that way. So, but generally speaking, you're better than the average bear out there.
I'm just saying that he's looking for a chance to redeem himself, and his good name is gone, and there's no other way to do it except running for president. And I realize that a lot of folks have put their eggs in DeSantis's basket, but
Right.
Who's to say what would happen with DeSantis if his house got raided one night and his wife's closet got gone through?
Good point. Hey, listen, let me run, see if I can get Richard from Tennessee in here. Richard, what's on your mind, buddy, real quickly? Richard? Richard must have went away. But that's true. That what Gary was talking about is exactly right. How would DeSantis react if suddenly the feds descended on your house at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, busted down your front door, and arrested you? So, they did treat Trump a little better than that, but some of Trump's other guys, they did not treat very well at all. I can't remember their names right now, but I can certainly remember the circumstances and the situations. The Democrats are playing for keeps, and you live by the sword and you die by the sword, as the old saying goes. So we shall see how this turns out in the end. So far, Trump has beat them at every turn. When we come back, I've got a lot of texts I need to get caught up on, and a couple of other things. A personal note I'd like to pass along now that we're halfway through the program, or a third of the way through the program. We'll talk a little bit more about some other interesting things as well. So stay with us right here. By the way, Colonel Phil will be back tomorrow on Rightside Radio. He's been gone for the last couple of days, couple of programs, or is it 3? I think maybe it's 3 days. So anyway, it's long enough. He'll be back tomorrow. So stay with us here on Rightside Radio till he does return. I'm Jay Holland filling in for Phil Williams here on Rightside Radio. My old buddy Jeff Davis bringing me on. Jay Holland here with you, sitting in for Phil Williams, who will be back tomorrow here on Rightside Radio. Love to hear from you, 833-687-4448. That's phone or text. That's 833-687-4448. All right, we've got a couple of things to cover here. We were talking before we left about the reaction from a lot of Democrats based on some of the things that's been reported related to the Hunter Biden situation. So if I can find the story here, we'll see if I must have missed out on it. But here's a story. Jen Psaki, you remember the first White House press secretary? Jen Psaki is alarmed that more than 1 in 3 voters think the U.S. is in danger of, quote, failing, unquote, under Biden. A recent poll forecasted a rough road ahead for Democrat spin doctors, as evidenced by MSNBC's, quote, alarmed, unquote, Jen Psaki. Sunday, the former White House press secretary said Joe Biden continued to do her, or continued to do, the former press secretary, that's right, Jen Psaki, continued to do her part to coax the narrative in favor of the left up against some fairly damning numbers, as this story reads. The host of the Inside with Jen Psaki would go on to note that the late July poll conducted by the New York Times and Siena College found that 65% of registered voters believe that the country is heading in the wrong direction. No kidding, Einstein. So it's really problematic right now for the Democrats because they, like I said, it's a perfect analogy for those guys and gals like Jen Psaki. They're like kitties in a litter box, literally. And it's really sad that it has come down to this, but they just can't get stuff covered up fast enough. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's numbers are through the roof. And I know that he has some detractors. We've spoken to a couple of them today. And by the way, if you want to chime in, you're certainly welcome to at 833-687-4448. But the numbers kind of speak for themselves. Now, I've never really been much of a poll-believing person, but it's kind of hard to argue when you're well over 50 points ahead. So, and certainly the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, or as Trump says, Ron DeSanctimonious. Trump always had a nickname for everybody, and that was part of his appeal. I think it was part of a lot of his lovableness, if you will, at first, when he was really, slaying all these Republican would-be candidates for president. It was kind of like today, like 16 or 18 of them. And he really enjoyed picking on them. But, Ron DeSantis has done a very good job in Florida of being a good conservative governor. He had a couple of questionable votes in Congress that a lot of people have kind of pointed out. But, there's something to be said for some of the things that he's accomplished in Florida. So I wouldn't be, as a Republican, I wouldn't be totally upset if Ron DeSantis somehow did become the Republican nominee. But right now, it's not looking very favorable. So regardless of your take on the situation, it's very much fluid right now because Trump is really doing well in the polls. It's almost scary how well he's doing. In fact, he bragged in Montgomery, Friday night was a week ago, that all he needed was one more indictment, and he would cinch the Republican nomination. And it's really very interesting, because Trump is a very outside-the-box thinker, without doubt. But Georgia prosecutors have indicted Trump, so that he got his wish. So they claim that they have texts linking Trump's legal team to voting system breach. So that story broke just a couple of hours before we went on the air here. So anyway, it's all getting pretty doggone interesting right now. So whatever your take is, would love to hear from you. And I think Boomer has somebody on the phone right now. Boomer, is that true? All right, we'll take a phone call. Kareem. Yes, Kareem, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing there, sir?
Good, man. Thanks for calling.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
So all the stuff that's against Biden is all third-party information. Even Hunter's friend, where he said, no, he never did any business with him. But we're not supposed to believe Biden, but we're supposed to believe Trump, who we have text, video, audio, and he even said it himself that he committed these crimes. But
I don't.
We supposed to take all of that and throw that away and believe that Joe Biden is the criminal. He's the one that's the problem. If Jared Kushner getting $22 billion from the Saudis, that's nothing. That's just part of doing business. Or Don Jr. buying a $10 million house last week in New York City, that's nothing. That's just doing business. Ivanka getting 16 patents, that's nothing. That's just doing business. It has nothing to do with Trump. But we're supposed to believe that Hunter Biden that may have got $20 million and gave his father money, he's the corrupt one. Uncle Joe is the corrupt one, not Trump.
Yeah.
Nothing that we did. We actually heard Trump
That's
I
crooked.
need 11,000.
That's crooked, Joe.
780 votes, sir.
That's
yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, there's no loss between that. But when I hear you guys and I hear how y'all got on how you got there and says, oh, and his numbers keep going up amongst Republicans that was going to vote for him anyway.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Jack Smith is not going to leave any rock unturned for this man. Now, him going to jail, I don't know. But they will stifle him and they will prevent him from being president again.
Well, that's what they want to do.
He
sure.
has his little base, yes, and that's true. They need to.
Yeah.
They have every right to. They need to. For what he tried to do to this country, he should be in jail, under the jail.
Well, Kareem, I really appreciate your take on it, and it's a valid take. I don't doubt anything that you're saying or claiming, but what I do know is that there are a lot of questions right now about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, and they don't seem to be getting a whole lot of traction. But at least some of the
they are, but at the same time, it's all innuendos and it's third party.
Well,
you don't have any text.
Kareem, there's a video of Joe Biden, bragging that he got the prosecutor in Ukraine fired. So
show us evidence.
Oh, it's there. I mean, I've seen it myself several times.
Just like the 2020 election, everybody keeps saying, "Oh, now even after Giuliani then came out and admitted a couple of weeks that he lied to everybody." Y'all still saying there was something wrong with that election, or because you know that if you sit back and admit it, that means all the new voting laws that y'all created since 2020 election is null and void. Well, of course it won't be because we know the Republican tricks on how to prevent people from voting, but. It should have been null and void, and it was no
Kareem, that's ridiculous. There were supposedly more people voted in the 2020 election than ever voted in the history of this country. You can't.
Yes, and why do you think that turned out like that? Because they wanted to get rid of Trump.
Because of COVID and mail-in ballots. That's why it happened.
And what's wrong with mail-in ballots if it's American citizens?
Nothing's wrong with them if they're. Nothing's wrong with them if they're. Nothing's wrong with them if they're legal, but I don't think
they're legal. They didn't name any. These haven't shown anything that said they wasn't legal. Anything.
Well,
you have no evidence to the contrary. Meanwhile, we have video, audio, and everything of them plotting. Even if I lose, I win. That was his mantra.
Yeah.
That's what that was his mantra. That's what he said. And yet you still back this man. That's what I told Phil the other day. It means that you really wanted him to succeed in what he was trying to do, which was still a presidency. Now you're no longer just an objective member. Now you keep quiet with it.
Well, I don't believe that for a second.
I think that
I think that there is enough evidence that there was some tampering in some places with the 2020 election.
We need to see it.
It's
Let the American
beginning.
people see it.
It's beginning to come out in Wisconsin and in Michigan and some of these other dubious
that's wrong.
places. So
It's wrong, brother, because I haven't seen
Nevada
anything.
is another one of these places where it's a little bit dubious. There are several trouble spots. Pennsylvania, there's several trouble spots in the country, and you know it.
And none of it has been proven. None of it has been proven. Not one court case, not one judgment in that favor that it has been proven. But meanwhile, y'all keep pushing this and pushing this and pushing it like this is honest to God truth.
Well,
how about we just didn't want him no more? He was supposed to go away.
Maybe we're taking it from the Democrat playbook, Kareem. Listen, we got to run, buddy.
I know, but I didn't see any Democrat ask for 11,780 votes. Not one of them.
Well, it's certainly open for debate, and you've had a good run at it, buddy. I appreciate you calling. Kareem calling in from where was he from? Huntsville. Okay. Well, you know, it's academic. There are beginning to be some proof coming out about mischief. 2,000 Mules has been out, 2 or 3 years now. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but they used cell phone data. Cell phone data. Now, everybody's got a cell phone, and guess what? It's a tracker. You can be tracked. So they compiled all the cell phone data and all of the 2,000 of them. And they discovered that these people were going back and back and back time and time again to these mail-in ballot polling places and stuffing the ballot box. Now, you can shred it to pieces all you want and say there's no proof. But there is beginning to be some real interesting things coming out. And a lot of this stuff that the Democrats are doing right now is centrifuge for stopping Trump. That's all they care about doing. And Kareem even admitted that. So it's make of it what you will, and there's always going to be somebody on the other side of the aisle screaming the other side. But it is beginning to happen. But it's kind of like David said, the first guy that called in, it's about the 2024 election. It's not about the 2020 election. It's not about the 2016 election. It's about the 2024 election. And that's what we're going to be really concerned with. And Trump, more so than anybody, he's going to be spending a ton of money to make sure these ballots are secure and are legal and are the real deal. But meanwhile, the Democrats, who get the All-Star game moved out of Atlanta because the Georgia legislature tightened down on voting fraud, which they claim is easy access to the ballot box, which is really a license to cheat, because I've seen the cheating, Kareem, and it's right here in Alabama. It's happened here before. So you talk a good game, Kareem, but let me tell you, cheating happens. It's been happening, and it's been happening for decades upon decades. So, don't act all innocent and goody-goody two-shoes, Kareem. It's definitely going on, and we will get to the bottom of it one way or the other. I think Trump has enough money, he's going to make sure this time. So just strap in and get ready, buddy. You're going to have an eye-opening experience here before too much longer. This is Rightside Radio. I'm Jay Holland, sitting in for Phil Williams. We'll be right back after the break. Rightside Radio. I'm Jay Holland, back from the break. And if you'd like to be on the air with us, 833-687-4448. 833-687-4448. That's phone or text. It's about bottom of the hour, so we only have a few moments, but we do have Brian from Huntsville on the line. Brian, what's on your mind?
Well, in rebuttal to the last gentleman online, Kareem,
Yes.
I have to say that I'm sorry. The everything against Trump, most of it was proven false, including the files coming up about Russia manufactured.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
No proof there. And we got plenty of proof on 2 laptops from Hunter Biden. And very quickly, as far as the Atlanta making more allegations against Donald Trump, I'm sorry. They have letters of marque or marque, as in, it used to be in the 1700s, early 1800s.
Yes.
You would give pirates that to where they could make their profit.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what is happening with the DA in Atlanta and the prosecutors. They say, okay, make your own profit, but you make this happen.
Well, you know, you make a great point. Kareem is very defensive. He's tired of all of this conservative talk, and he don't believe that the 2020 election was rigged. Trump keeps saying it is. A lot of people believe it. There's a movie, like a 2-hour movie out called 2,000 Mules. Have you seen that?
Yes, and I've also seen other sources about how people were stuffing monitored ballot boxes.
Monitored,
multiple, not
and
one.
they've got video. I can't help it that Kareem has not taken the time to watch 2,000 Mules, but if he wants proof, all he's got to do is go rent it or buy it or watch it online, and he'll have. That was 90% of his argument right there. But
and I've got nothing against the gentleman Kareem or anything like that. But I'm just talking about presenting the facts as factual. Not as fiction. That's all. Have a good one.
You too, Brian. Thanks for the call. A little clarification there, and I think that is a good point that Brian makes. You know, there is proof, you know, but you've got to want to look at it and believe it. And I've seen 2,000 Mules. It's damn scary. Pardon my French. Really scary. That people can do what they do with mail-in ballots and other forms of, you know, signature verification. And, a lot of these Democrat state legislatures have taken some of these safeguards off. A lot of the state legislatures were overridden by, like, Pennsylvania's Supreme Court illegally, Kareem. There are a lot of different things and circumstances that happened in the 2020 election. We could rehash them all, but I'm telling you, there was cheating. Trump is right. There was mischief, and it did happen, mostly in the name of COVID. But the Democrats don't have COVID anymore, and it's going to be a lot tougher in 2024. But they will still try to cheat any way they can. Guaranteed. It's historic. It's happened in the past. It will continue to happen today and tomorrow. We'll be back. We're back. Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'd love to hear from you. 833-687-4448. 833-687-4448. That's phone and text. And I do have a few texts to kind of keep up with before we get to Jeff traveling back to Indiana. David from Huntsville said, keep in mind, Mueller said he didn't find any Russia collusion evidence, but he could not exonerate Trump either. Terry in Huntsville, the left has a globalist agenda, and Trump will dismantle it and sit them back by years by firing people and resetting policies. He has more support from the nation than any Democrat. Cameron from Decatur said, brother, you said it right today. Trump is a buffoon, but he is a buffoon who gets things done. He's not a politician. That's what we love about him. He's embarrassing, but he does the job. He doesn't frustrate us with his ineptitude. Cameron, all right. Kenneth from Hartselle says, look here, this is a conservative radio station, so don't be talking about Trump whining when you're seeing the truth come out. There's a big difference between the truth and whining. Bob from Decatur, Kareem is loving open borders with 5,500 illegals coming over every day. He loves the high gas prices. He loves the economy and the 8% interest rates. Kareem is drunk on the Kool-Aid. Michael from Taft, Tennessee, says, in response to Kareem's rant, Trump made his money before he went off to office. Biden has made all of his money when he was in office. Ryan from Hazel Green, Alabama, I wonder if Kareem realizes he's exactly what the left wants him to be, just another useful idiot. That's Ryan from Hazel Green. All right, guys, thanks for the texts. And again, the number, 833-687-4448 for phone or text. Now we will go to somewhere on the highway to Indiana. And our good friend on Rightside Radio, Jeff. Jeff, what's up, buddy?
Well, going down the road, and I'm doing all right until I get to Nashville. Then that's a crapshoot then.
Well, Boomer was telling me you drive from Alabama to Indiana every day.
600 miles round trip, 12-hour plus day. Yep.
Golly.
5 to 6 days a week. Yeah.
Well, my hat's off to you, buddy. That's fantastic. You're my hero. That's amazing. That's very amazing. So, by the way, Indiana is Larry Bird country still, and I'm still a big Larry Bird fan.
Just north of me up at French Lick.
Yep, French Lick.
knows territory real well.
Good deal. Well, tell me what's on your mind.
Hey, I guess they're charging Trump with election interference in Georgia.
Yeah, it's crazy, but
well. I want to know is when we're going to charge all the DAs and the attorney generals and the Supreme Court that did change election laws illegally.
That's right.
They can't be charged.
That's right. I pointed out a few of those things, but it's true. There was a lot of hocus pocus by focus stuff going on in the 2020 election. Anybody that doesn't realize that is either shilling for the Democrats, which, Kareem was doing, or they're just not keeping up with what's happening. So, I appreciate Kareem. He called, he spent his time, and he made his point. But, I just happen to disagree with it, and I think that there is ample evidence out there that there was some funky stuff going on. He may not want to admit it, but I believe it's true, and he's not going to change my mind.
Try to call a liberal station and get as much airtime as he did when he disagrees with the host.
Oh, yeah, there's no question. They would shut us down quick, fast, and in a hurry. as they say.
I used to talk to Alan Combs about every night when
Oh,
he
yeah,
was on the radio, and he wouldn't ever let you get him because he would always shut you off right before you made
Oh,
your
yeah,
point.
yeah. He was one of those classic liberals that you love to hate, you know. I mean, you kind of liked the guy, but then again, you know, golly, how can you be so crazy? But, yeah, that's the way most of them are. It's like Kareem. I mean, he's probably a really nice guy, but, you know, his takes on stuff. You know, you really, and even here in Alabama, I've been part of the Alabama political scene for, since the early 80s. And there's been mischief here in Alabama. Nobody wants to really talk about it, but it's true. And
I'm from a Democrat county. I mean, whenever I was growing up and everything, you'd sit outside the polling place with it wouldn't be a pint. They give away pints and everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Go to the car and get your pint out the back.
Yeah, out of your trunk. That's right. Yeah. A member of my family used to politic that way. So, it was common. But, don't say the 2020 election didn't have any mischief. You know, then you're all of a sudden you're a radical racist and wascally Republican. You know, that's what you are.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'll tell you. I mean, this may sound crazy, but actually, the January 6th, what happened then was probably constitutional because they ratified an illegal election.
Right.
I mean, at what point do you follow the Constitution? The government wasn't following it, and the people knew that.
Well, unfortunately, the Constitution is what the news media says it is. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is, and that's how I got so screwed up to begin with. People don't really understand the Constitution. They don't read it. They don't understand it. They think separation of church and state is in the Constitution. It's not. You know, people believe all kinds of crazy stuff. And
I've told Phil a lot of times that basically your liberals are probably people who shouldn't be in charge of their own affairs. So I think we need to assign some conservatives to help them vote.
Well, they sure don't mind helping themselves to vote. They pick you up, they take you back, they go pick up your ballot for you. It's called ballot harvesting. They do it all for you, buddy. All you got to do is just sign your X right here, buddy, right here.
Well, I ran for a race one time, 2-3 times as a Republican in my county. That basically I made them print a ballot because everybody was elected in the primary otherwise.
Yeah.
But my opponent sat within like 30 feet. We're sitting in the doorway of a polling place, asking everybody their names as they went in and everything. They thought he was just like taking names and stuff, and then he would see who didn't show up, and then he'd hand off the list to the people, and they'd go get them, bring them to the polling place.
Oh, yeah.
Illegal as all get out, but, I couldn't do nothing about it.
Well, I mean, you got to hand it to them. They're pretty creative about stuff like that. I know a very, very good friend of mine here. He was 99 years old when he passed away about 3 years ago. His name was James D. Martin. There's a wildlife park here in Gadsden named after him. Jim Martin was a stellar individual in this state. He did more for Alabama than you can possibly imagine. But in 1962, he ran for the U.S. Senate from Alabama against Lister Hill. Lister Hill was the most powerful member of the United States Senate at the time. He was the man. And Jim Martin got out there in his little station wagon with speakers up on top of it and rode all over the state and asked for people's vote. He would stop. If he saw a farmer out there in the field, he'd stop on the side of the road and flag him over and ask him for his vote. And, that's the way he campaigned all across the state. Jim Martin in 1962 in November came not only close to beating the towering Lister Hill, he did beat Lister Hill. By about 8 or 9 o'clock that night, he had a 25,000 vote lead on the number one senator in the country. And when he woke up the next morning thinking he had won the election, they broke the news to him that he actually lost the election by 10,000 votes. So
imagine that.
Imagine
in a
that.
Democrat state, huh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know how things work. A lot of the dead come out to vote, apparently.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
always come up. Seems like the Democrats always they're almost have eternal life because they always vote whether they're alive or dead.
Well, it's been going on a long time, Jeff, and if Kareem wants me to believe that nobody cheated in 2020, that's just not going to happen. There was plenty of cheating going on in 2020, whether he wants to believe it or not. Now, most all the court cases with Democrat judges and various and sundry other jurists and operatives within the court system have proclaimed that there has not been a case. But I think that's about to change. We do know that in Pennsylvania, the state legislature was overridden, as we talked about earlier, by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. We do know that. That's a form of election interference and cheating. So there have been incidences, despite Kareem's pronunciations of innocence, there have been a lot of nefarious, shall we say, types of activities going on here. So he's not fooling anybody by ranting and raving and over-modulating me. But the truth is, there's no perfect election, unfortunately. But I think that if given the circumstances from 2020, it's going to be a whole lot harder to cheat in 2024 because of what we went through just 4 years previous. And that's one thing that's got the Democrats kind of rattled, too. So, they're used to cheating. They know how to cheat, but now some of their avenues have been cut off, and it's going to be a whole lot harder. Well, Jeff, listen, be careful going through. Are you going through Nashville now?
No. I'm still about 50 miles south of it, so I've got a little
gosh.
bit before I go through the gauntlet.
The gauntlet. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, say hello to the Bat Tower up there for me. I love that building up there. It's got the little bat ears up there on the skyline. But nevertheless, thank you for calling, Jeff. Drive safe, my friend.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too, buddy. Jeff calling in from the road, driving to Indiana. He drives from Alabama to Indiana every day, back and forth, back and forth. He's an American hero. Well, this is Rightside Radio. I'm Jay Holland sitting in for Phil Williams. He'll be back tomorrow. And so far, it's been a real pleasure. 3:47 Central Time here, and we have a few more minutes until the break. If you'd like to call in, it's 833-687-4448. That's 833-687-4448. You can phone or text. So we'd love to hear from you here on Rightside Radio. Let me see if I can see if we have any more text. Boomer's been putting them up for me. So Marcus from Huntsville, let's see. The left, let's see. Yeah, the left hates Trump because he plays the game like a Democrat for Republicans, and they can't stand it. Interesting take on it. I will say the Democrats do stick together. They're a pretty homogeneous group. They help each other out to the polls. They go pick each other up. They, like Jeff was saying, they have a list, and if you don't come to the polls, they'll go get you, and bring you in to vote. So I mean, they're pretty organized. They got a good system, and it's served them well in the past. But technology, like this cell phone thing that 2,000 Mules points out, is not only convincing, it's downright scary. So you get 2,000 people with cell phones, you can track their movements. You know exactly where they are at any moment in time. And that's what they did. They tracked all these nefarious characters going in and out. They're called mules for a reason, because they were toting illegal ballots back and forth to the polling places. all you got to do is watch it. It's downright scary what they're doing with this stuff. But see, they didn't count on the fact that they carried that cell phone and were being tracked. So we know their movements. We know what they were doing. There's camera footage, video footage of these polling places where these people show up time and time and time and time again and stuff 9, 10, 12, 20 ballots at a time and go back and get more. So it's bona fide, certified, rectified, sanctified. It happened. And if you don't believe it, then you just don't know what's going on technically. Technologically, it's scary. But we'll take the break, and we'll come right back with the last segment of the 4 o'clock hour coming up. Keep it right here. We're on Rightside Radio. We'll be back. Rightside Radio, Jay Holland here for Phil Williams. Love to hear from you. As a matter of fact, we are going to go straight to a phone call, but the number, if you want to call, 833-687-4448. 833-687-4448. That's for phone or text on the same line. So let's go to Philly in Lawrence County, Alabama. Philly, what's on your mind, buddy?
Oh, man, just another beautiful day. I tell you, you look at these accusations of Trump interference in election down in Georgia, and I think the Democrats have the right accusation but the wrong argument. I think Trump very much did interfere in elections in Georgia, but when he got up and told Republicans to stay home and not vote, he definitely interfered with the Republican elections in Georgia that cost us some Senate seats, and unfortunately it's just been a downhill spiral since then. You look at everyone that he's endorsed, and in the terms of Republican versus Democrat race, when it's been close, they've lost. And unfortunately, I think we're seeing this spiral out of Trump. And he was great for 3 years, but he started losing it, I think, in that fourth year. And definitely, and seeing him run now against Republicans, he's breaking Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment: "Thou shalt not speak ill of any fellow Republican." And I think his mouth is getting way ahead of him, and I'm just concerned that he could cost us yet again in the next election.
Well, Philly, again, that's the plus and minuses of Donald Trump. He's a bull in a china shop. I freely admit it. He's unpredictable. He really, this is one of the things that the world leaders all found. I mean, even Kim Jong-un didn't want to really mess much with Trump. He calmed his act down and everything. So Trump is a real unpredictable guy. And he's that way for a reason. He made himself extremely wealthy off of doing things unconventionally. And politics to him is just another business. And this is another way Trump can use his influence to make parties, politicians, government leaders across the globe do what Trump wants. He made NATO nations pay up billions and trillions of dollars in back dues. This guy is totally unpredictable. That's why.
There's a lot he can do. Yeah, just the big question is he a conservative? That's the question.
Yeah, I think he spent most of his life as a Democrat, probably. I mean, he's that age, So and being from New York, I mean, I would think he was a Democrat, But but I think he is a conservative in the fact that he's a rich guy and he made himself that way by doing things, in a conservative manner that was, building on itself. And what was he worth? $4 billion at one time, something like that. So you don't get that way just by, spending your money. So I think he is probably very conservative. But it's really an interesting study here. We'll be back to talk about it in the last hour. This is Rightside Radio.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right.
Just plain right.
Rightside Radio. I'm Jay Holland sitting in for Senator Phil Williams, or he goes by Chairman Phil Williams. So, any way you want to go, the guy's got it going on. And it's a great little radio program he has as well, too. It's on, several major stations in Alabama, and we really appreciate him for his strong conservative stand and for being right. Rightside Radio is properly named. Well, I want to take a couple, about a minute for myself here. I've mentioned this a couple of times already, about me being on the big wax here in Gadsden for a long time. My dad and mom would listen to me in Tunnel Hill, Georgia. But Dad passed away June 28th. So he was 86 years old, born November 21st, 1935, died June 29th, 2013. And he was a great influence on my life, especially early on. He started me working with him when I was 11 years old. I was an electrician's helper. So while all my friends were out playing and partying and swimming at the rec, playing basketball, I was on the truck with my dad working. Taught me a lot, and I just wanted to acknowledge that he's no longer around to listen anymore. He probably would be listening right now if he were here. But a great chapter in my life closed at the end of June. So we'll see you later, Dad. Rightside Radio. It's a little after 4 o'clock, last hour, and we want to go right back to the text, and then we'll take a few phone calls as well. Again, the number, 833-687-4448. Marcus from Huntsville. My problem is we know they cheated abundantly last time, and relatively nothing was done about it. So why do we think that's going to keep them from doing it again when they weren't stopped and punished the last time? Well, that's a great question, Marcus, and they will do it again. They've been doing it. It's historic. I mean, these people know how to cheat. The Democrats, and don't ever forget it. Don't ever forget it, and especially characters out there like Kareem. The Democrats were the one that wrote Jim Crow into the Constitution of the great state of Alabama in 1901. It was the Democrats that had all the voting, problems in the early 1900s with blacks and poll taxes, and it was the Democrats that did all that. Don't give all that stuff to me, Kareem, about all this stuff that the Democrats have not been charged with anything. It's not ridiculous. It's just not even feasible for you to believe otherwise. If you're going to be a realist, like you claim to be, Kareem, you need to understand that it was the Democrats that perpetrated all of this mischief on black people in this country. That's a fact. So, I understand you're passionate, and I understand, and that's good. You need to be passionate about the party, but not to the point where you're protecting something that you really should know better than to protect. The Democrats don't deserve protection. They deserve prosecution. That's what they deserve, because that's what they did to blacks in this country for many, 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 many decades. So that's just the way it is. And Marcus is right to question them. All right, John from Huntsville. Let's see if we can bring this up a little better. Jay, you're doing an awesome job. Wow, thanks. I think what happened in the 2020 election was that they already counted over 95% of the votes and saw Biden was way behind, and that's when the vote suddenly came out, came to a halt. That's right. That happened about 2 a.m. Remember all that stuff in Wisconsin and Michigan and all that? And they started getting all the fake ballots together. And then many hours later, ballots started rolling in for Biden, and there were very few Donald Trump votes left to counter. It's probably true, John. Glenn from Bluntsville, Alabama says, why does it take 2 to 3 weeks to count ballots for our elections, but it only takes a few hours to figure out if someone won the Powerball jackpot? Oh, excellent point, Glenn. That makes sense, you know? And that's another thing that's very important. People, we've got to get back to election day, not election month. You know, it just takes way, way, way too long. We've got to get back to election day. If you have a election day, an 8 to 12 to 10 hour day to vote, if you can't vote in 12 hours, which is what the polls really do, they open at 7 a.m., close at 7 p.m. If you can't vote in 12 hours, then you probably shouldn't vote to begin with. So we've got to get back to election day and cut out most of this mischief. If we got back to election day, it would stop a lot of this nefarious Bravo Sierra going on with ballot harvesting and all the other kinds of crazy crap going on in our elections. And we've got to get back to voting day. Attaboy, Glenn. Good point. Then finally, Luann from Huntsville says, there are no consequences to voter fraud. All they have to do is yell and scream disenfranchisement. The Republicans are spineless, except for Trump. All right. Well, let's. I've got one more good one here coming up, so we'll save that one for after the call with Mo Brooks. Former Congressman Mo Brooks is on the line. Congressman, how are you?
Hey, Jay. I'm doing great. I'll tell you, serving in Washington is a soul-corrupting experience. And the longer I've been away, the better I feel.
Soul corrupting. I had not thought of that term. That's pretty serious.
It's a pretty rough environment. Anyway, as you know, I know a bunch of these candidates running for president. And I've been listening to you all this afternoon talking about this candidate or that candidate or issues or what have you.
Yeah.
As I'm trying to get some construction work done. And I just wanted to share with some folks some insight that I hope that they will find worthwhile. For decades, my primary source of income was as a litigator, an assistant district attorney in Tuscaloosa, district attorney in Madison County, defense attorney, litigated in over 20 states around the United States, civil litigation. And what that taught me is you have to evaluate your case on a regular basis because that's the best way to advise your client. If you don't know what the odds are of prevailing, then you don't know how you should best advise your client on how to go forward.
Of course, yeah.
When you're doing this, you look at four things. You look at the judge and what disposition the judge may have on the case. Is it going to be a favorable disposition, or is he opposed to you for some reason? A second thing you look at is the jury pool. Mm-hmm. Makeup of that jury and what is their predisposition going to be. The third and fourth things you look at are the expected evidence and the applicable law. And those four things are what guide you. Now, with that kind of experience and looking at these three, soon-to-be four, criminal indictments against Donald Trump, it is my judgment, as someone who's been in this business for decades, three decades minimum, that there is a high probability, a high risk, that he's going to be convicted of felony. Now, you can get into a whole other discussion as to whether he's innocent and wrongfully charged, or he's charged for political reasons or what have you. I'm just talking about the bottom line and what the probabilities are. And then you've got a Reuters poll that came out just about 10 days ago that said that 45% of Republican voters would not vote for Donald Trump if he's a convicted felon. So in effect, if he's convicted, we are conceding this election to the Democrats, even if it's only 10 or 20%. 45 is a horrible number. Perhaps it'll only be 10 to 20%, but as you know, you take away 10 to 20% of a Republican vote in an otherwise close election, and our candidate gets beat like a drum. And so I hope everybody will think about the risk associated with nominating Donald Trump under the circumstances that he faces. The Republican Party has no plan B. If he is convicted, then if he wants to be our nominee, he is our nominee.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the end of it. And in my judgment, that is one of the reasons why the Democrats and the news media are working so hard, along with the prosecutors, who are Democrats by and large, to push these trials after the primaries are over with. Now, they'll make some waves and act like they want them sooner, but Donald Trump also wants them after the primaries because he knows they could have an adverse effect on his nomination. And so collectively, after everything is said and done, at least so far, we're looking at jury trials that are after the bulk of the Republican primaries.
Right.
And that's not a good thing. So that's the risk associated with all this. If he's acquitted, and that's the best case scenario, then I think he's a shoo-in to beat the Democrat in November. The problem is, given the evidence, given the law, given the judges, given the likely jury pools, in my judgment at least, there's a high risk, a probability that he won't be able to skate on all of them, that he's going to be convicted in at least one, in which case we've just handed the election over to the Democrats. So that's my 2 cents on something I hope people will think about as we try to make sure Joe Biden and his kind do not get another 4 years in the White House.
Oh, my gosh. Congressman, it's just been such a dismal performance. You were talking about, the petroleum reserve and artificially keeping the price of gas down. Now he can't do that anymore. It's about gone. So now the gas prices are going back up. Inflation has been just terrible. There's a story out today. Biden's Inflation Reduction Act did nothing to bring down inflation. Economists agree. I'll go over that in a few moments. But we're in the tank. It's bad, and I don't.
One of the worst presidents, if not the worst president in my lifetime.
I can't believe that it's gone from a pretty doggone good economy when Trump had it. And, Trump is a controversial guy. He always has been. This is nothing new. Trump is really Trump. You can't really categorize the guy. He's very unpredictable, as you found out. He endorsed you, then disendorsed you.
3 times I found that out.
Golly. I mean, you just can't count on him.
3 times he broke his word to me.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. That's how it works.
It's Trump, I mean, how do you define the guy? He's a bull in a china shop. But somehow he was able to convince the American public that, he could get the job done. And I think he did do a pretty good job when he was in there. But he's obviously left the door open for these Democrats to do what they're doing. And, I said early on, it's sling a bunch of stuff on the wall and hope some of it sticks. And I think that's exactly what you were saying. So it's really problematic for the country. I don't know how we get out of this. It's very scary.
Well, the voters have to do a much better job. On the Democrat side, I'm persuaded that the Biden family is really a crime syndicate.
Yeah.
And they should not be nominating someone who has been involved in that kind of corruption that has been adverse to the interests of the United States of America and has enriched their pocketbooks to the tune of $20+ million.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still baffled by how much we have fallen. My introduction to presidents was pretty much Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, me too.
Now, both of those two gentlemen were gentlemen. They were honorable.
Mm-hmm.
There was never a hint of criminal activity with either one of them.
No.
And they were likable individual and charismatic in their own way. Now, Jimmy Carter was just a fish out of water.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan, on the other hand, was great as a president.
Yeah.
And look at where we are, where we may have the Biden crime family syndicate on the one hand, versus a convicted felon on the other. I've got to believe that both political parties have somebody in the wings who is honorable, who is honest, who doesn't engage in this kind of egregious conduct that can be the nominee.
Yeah.
But right now, it looks like it's going to be Biden. It looks like it's going to be Donald Trump.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your expertise, Congressman, and especially for all your years in Washington. I know you were probably one of the most conservative members of Congress when you were there. You were there for the terrible, congressional baseball game, when shots rang out. And, we just really appreciate all the effort that you made to do what you did. I really, really wished that your Senate bid had been successful. I like Senator Britt. I think she's a lightweight compared to your conservative credentials, but nevertheless, that's what we have. And I wish you were still back in there. But
well, thank you so much, Jay. It's a pleasure chatting with you again.
Yeah, same here. And I really appreciate you standing in the gap for us, buddy. Thank you, Congressman Mo Brooks, here on Rightside Radio. Well, wow, pretty interesting line of thinking there from the congressman. Also a jurist himself, someone who's been in the courtroom in front of a jury and a judge and knows how to weigh the consequences. So what do you think? We'll take some more phone calls here in the last half hour coming up on Rightside Radio. Phil Williams on assignment will be back tomorrow here on Rightside Radio. So stay with us. We got some more texts to pass along and more phone calls at 833-687-4448. That's 833-687-4448. This is Rightside Radio. We'll be back. Rightside Radio, I'm Jay Holland. Thanks for joining us here, sitting in for Phil Williams. Got a couple of texts here. David from Huntsville. DeSantis is a wise and energetic man, has an awesome record in Florida, and is, in his time, we've had a president who has served in the military. DeSantis will have a strong leadership style and Trump's type policies. We must move toward or forward and have our best 2024 candidate. Mid-2023 is a snapshot in time that we won't recognize this time next year. Interesting. John C. from Madison says, getting back to go prime. Republicans say something about voter fraud. The Democrats will almost always deny it, or they will say that it's not bad enough to prosecute. That's John C. from Madison. All right. Again, the phone number is 833-687-4448 for texts or for calls. When we come back, we'll take more. Keep it right here. We'll take the break. We'll come right back. You're listening to Right Side Radio. Rightside Radio, Jay Holland sitting in for Phil Williams. Thanks for joining us here this afternoon, last half hour of the show. But first, here's a word from our sponsor.
I'll tell you, our friends at Southern Immediate Care. Southern Immediate Care, one of the sponsors of our show, they are a chain of clinics that are doing amazingly good work all over North Alabama. They got locations in Gadsden, Anniston, Atala, 5 locations around the Birmingham area. Their 2 newest ones are in Chelsea and Hoover, and I hear that more are coming. But you may want to know they are open 7 days a week. They will take all ages. I'm talking about from pediatric to geriatric. You go in there, the staff is always friendly, the place is always clean, and I can just tell you, this is who I use. Southern Immediate Care. I use them in the Gadsden area, and they are always Johnny on the spot. I mean, they are so amenable. They are so just everything is so well received, and I never mind going there. Southern Immediate Care. If you need care 7 days, I mean, think about it. Saturday morning, you wake up, the kid's got a fever. What do? Southern Immediate Care. Look them up online. Find the location nearest to you. I'm just telling you. I know the folks that own this chain, and they are amazing people. And so, yeah, check them out. Southern Immediate Care all over North Alabama. Find the one nearest to you and tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio.
Thank you, Phil Williams. Rightside Radio is on the air. Would love to hear from you at 833-687-4448. 833-687-4448. You can also text us at that same number. And we've gotten some really pretty cool texts today from all over the place. So, just let us hear from you in one way or the t'other, phone or text. We have several things. I want to get into this story. Biden's Inflation Reduction Act did nothing to bring down inflation. This is from economists now. This is not just a headline somewhere, but this is on BPR, Business and Politics. And essentially what's going on here is pretty doggone apropos, as expected, as predicted. The inflation rate has been extraordinarily high for the last 40 years. It's the highest in 40 years. And the Inflation Reduction Act did nothing to address the causes of inflation and was instead named as such due to the politics of the moment, according to economists who spoke to the Associated Press. Economists say that the $740 billion legislation was passed 1 year ago on Wednesday, does not deserve credit for bringing down inflation, and President Joe Biden has also come out to say that the legislation was not meant to address record high inflation. According to the AP, inflation reached 9.1% in June 2022. So, even before the bill was signed in August of 2022, the Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, said the legislation would have a negligible effect on inflation, according to a letter by the CBO, to Republican South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. So just another nearly $1 trillion spending package that the Democrats just, loaded up for their own little personal bridges to nowhere and various and sundry projects, quote, quote, that has caused this horrific inflation. Now, it's fluctuated and gone down and come back up and blah, 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 but again, inflation is very simple. Too much money chasing too few goods. So you got too much money in the marketplace. Guess what happens to the price? Yeah, right. It goes up and it keeps going up. There's nothing to stop it from going up. The only thing that's going to stop all this craziness is a recession, and that's on the horizon. They're not talking about it. They won't talk about it because we got an election coming up. But the truth is, the recession is it's inevitable. You can't have all this money circulating in an economy that was under control, but now it's obviously not. So it is a real fundamental, basic problem. too much money in the economy. And guess what? Whammo bammo. It's just the way it is, you know. So, I mean, it's, you know, all these economists, you know, they defined it a long time ago. I mean, I've got a minor in economics from Jacksonville State University, and I really enjoyed my economic teachers and the textbooks. Very interesting study. Economics is really basic stuff when you get right down to it. Now, it can get complicated. There are a lot of factors, you know, but what the bottom line is, we had too much money infused into this economy by the federal government, and it started inflation, which the Biden administration claimed to be transitory. Remember all that lying they did to us back in the first part of the Biden regime's administration? Yeah, it was just transitory. Oh, don't worry about it. It's just, you know, it's just a little blip. You know, it's transitory. It's going to be gone, you know, next year. But, well, it wasn't gone next year. It went up as high as nearly 10% inflation, folks. That's crazy money. So, you know, I'm not making this stuff up. It's factual. It happened. It continues to happen. It's going to take a recession to cool this economy off, and that's what's going to happen next. Now we're going to be whining about, you know, everything from stagflation, deflation, and, you know, all the other economic woes on the other side of the inflationary spiral. So this is this cycle. You know, we went through this many times in my lifetime. In '74, we had a bad recession then. You know, we had one in the early 80s and the late 80s, and, you know, it's a cyclical thing. It's going to happen. You can't stop it. It's just the way it is. And so this time next year, mark my word, we'll be talking about, instead of Bidenomics, we'll be talking about stagnation and stagflation and, you know, all these other prices going down, and, you know, nobody's got any money. You know, the price may be good, but, you know, guess what? There ain't no money in your pocket. So it's really, you know, these are consequences, folks. It takes effort to make a stable economy. You got to have integrity. You've got to have price integrity. You've got to have companies that are willing to make a reasonable profit, not profiteering. You can't just make all the money you want forever. You've got to have controls. You've got to have reasonableness. It's not hard, because most of the time in the history of this country, we've had a good economy. So we had a really good economy when Trump was in there. I'm sorry if you Trump haters don't like Trump, or, you know, you dislike Trump. The facts are the facts. You know, unemployment was low. You know, the economy was soaring. The military was being rebuilt. Everything was happening that was good. You know, we had energy independence. Gas was $1.80 a gallon. You know, I tell you, it's going to be a tough record for the Republicans, because Trump, for all of the dislike and the mean tweets and all the wah from, you know, people that just don't like the guy, you know, it's just not enough to overcome the good things that Trump did. So I'm just being objective. I'm not trying to pump up Trump. I'm just saying, compared to what we have now, Trump is infinitely better, totally infinitely better. But, you know, then there's the side, like Mo Brooks pointed out a few minutes ago. Trump, you know, is an unknown. He's a question mark. You never know what he's going to do. You never know what he's going to say. You never know about Trump. He's the most unpredictable politician maybe ever. So that's what people don't like about Donald Trump mostly, you know. Now, they like the good things. They like that Kim Jong-un stopped all of his nuclear testing, stopped all of this bull crap going on, you know, because Trump made him back off. You know, they like all that. They like China being tariffed and taxed. They like Mexico being tariffed and taxed. They like the border being secure. Trump did all that. But they don't like his mean tweets. It sounds ridiculous, but that's what they don't like. So, I'm not making any of this stuff up. I'm just an observer. But Trump, regardless of what you think about him, did some pretty doggone good things. And it's the left that is desperate for him to sit down and shut up. In fact, they're trying to make him sit down and shut up legally. And I don't know if it's going to work or not. I mean, we had a litigator on in Mo Brooks a few minutes ago that said, look, chances are at least one of these charges is going to stick. Well, what does Trump do? I think he appeals it to the Supreme Court. And he's got 3 justices. John Roberts is a question mark. And then the other 5, take them or leave them. I don't know what the result of that would be. But everybody is all upset, especially on the left, about the U.S. Supreme Court being Donald Trump's court. So I don't know how all this turns out, but I tell you, looking at Trump's track record and what he's gone through since the moment he came down the golden escalator in Trump Tower, I don't know very many people that could withstand all of the bull crap that's been thrown at him. Do you know anybody else that could stand up to all that stuff? Lying and making stuff up and, 2 impeachments, not 1, but 2. An investigation by Robert Mueller, that didn't find him guilty, nor did it exonerate him. But Trump beat it. All this other stuff. How many people do you know that could put up with that kind of scrutiny and still do what Trump does? I want to tell you, Trump, no matter what you think of him, pretty damn formidable. Pardon my French. It's really an impressive legal and political agenda that he's been able to pull off. The legal side on his defense. He's employed perhaps the best lawyers ever, I guess. I mean, how do you beat all that stuff? It doesn't hurt that most of it was lies to begin with, made up by the Democrats out of desperation or whatever you want to call it. But how do you physically yourself go through the kind of scrutiny this guy has gone through when he didn't have to do any of it? I mean, here's a guy who ran for president to help the country. Now, you may not like him personally, but you can't deny what he did. So it's a real dilemma. It's a real dichotomy. It's a real tough spot that America finds itself in. Because on the one hand, you got this guy who, puts out mean tweets and says what is on his mind, and some of it's funny, some of it's entertaining, some of it's serious. I loved the fact that he made NATO pony up. I love that. How many presidents would walk in a country that, it belongs to the North Atlantic Treaty Association, NATO, whatever it means. Let's see. NATO, North American, Treaty Organization. That's it, NATO. How many people do you know that would walk into a NATO country and say, "Look, you guys aren't paying your 2%. Pony up or else"? How many people would do that? George W. Bush didn't do it. George H.W. Bush didn't do it. Bill Clinton didn't do it. Now, Clinton did some pretty good things for a Democrat, but let me tell you, Obama sure as hell didn't do it. Pardon my French. Obama just let them do what they will, but Trump said no, pony up or else, Obama controlled Kim Jong-un. Nobody has done that before. I tell you, it's a real tough spot, but there is an election coming up, and this one is going to be very important. Because if the next president doesn't get our economy on track, it's all over anyway. China and their economy is showing signs that they can and probably will flex their muscles in some way. because Biden has just let them run amok down there in the southeast Pacific. The Red China Sea is what it's called now. Not this is the China, it's the Red China Sea. But it's very concerning, the things that are going on. So, like him or hate him, Donald Trump has done some pretty doggone good things. And I don't know who the alternative is. A lot of folks like Ron DeSantis. I don't dislike Ron DeSantis. He's a military guy. But, when he was a congressman, he had some pretty questionable votes. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Looks like we're going to have to take a quick break, and we'll come right back, wrap up the program. It's been a relatively short 3 hours. But I thank you for listening. You're listening to Right Side Radio. We'll take the break. And we'll be back. Rightside Radio. I'm Jay Holland. Thanks for joining us here. And we only got a couple of minutes, so I just got a very interesting text. I want to just share this with y'all. Now, I'm not going to give you her name, but she's a very smart political analyst. She's someone who knows not only state politics, but federal politics pretty well. So it's, trust me, she knows what she's talking about. So I got this text, and we text back and forth all the time, our political views and such. And Julie, I'll just call her by her first name. Julie knows what she's talking about. She's pretty sharp. She's very, very much, a political junkie. But Julie says this is why I believe the Republican ticket will win in 2024. The Republican ticket will be Donald Trump for president with his running mate Tucker Carlson. What do you think? She writes. So I don't know. We've talked a lot about Trump this last 3 hours, but not in that context. That's pretty interesting. So anyway, it's really gonna be interesting the next few weeks. All this stuff with Georgia and these other cases, Mo Brooks mentioned it too, is a litigator. He discussed, and I don't know if you heard all that, but, Mo Brooks seems to think that one of these charges is going to probably stick, at which time I think he appeals that to the Supreme Court, which many Democrats call Trump's court. We'll see. But I think Trump has proven to be pretty resilient legally through all of the stuff in his first term. And again, how many individuals do you know that could withstand all of the craziness that, legally and otherwise, that went on about Donald Trump? So I don't know very many. I can tell you right now, Barack Obama could not do it. Nor could George W. Bush do it. Nor could Bill Clinton do it, nor could George H.W. Bush do it, and I don't know that Ronald Reagan could stand all that stuff. And going back to Jimmy Carter, the Sunday school teacher, Jimmy Carter, back when Democrats were honorable, Mo Brooks pointed that out. It's true. So, Tricky Dick, are you kidding me? Could he put up with all that stuff Donald Trump's put up with? No way. Anyway, well, we shall see. Enjoyed it, folks. It was always fun to be on the radio back in the day, but every now and then to pull me out of retirement and stick me behind a microphone somewhere is kind of fun. So I hope you enjoyed it as well. Well, until next time, I don't know when that'll be, but, we'll see. Y'all have a great one. Thank you. God bless. Take care. Rightside Radio.